Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 1 of the Well Anchored Life podcast, where we share the stories of brave guests who have navigated life's toughest storms and learned how to thrive amidst hardship. I'm your host, Belisha Tang. First, a quick and important note. This episode of The Well Anchored Life explores deeply personal and sometimes sensitive topics, specifically surrounding mental illness and substance use. We want to be explicitly clear that neither the host nor the guests are licensed medical professionals or therapists. We are simply sharing our lived experiences and insights from our own personal journeys. We are absolutely not endorsing or promoting the use of substances as a means to treat or heal mental health challenges. This conversation is offered for entertainment and educational purposes only. If you or someone you know is struggling, please reach out immediately to a qualified professional. Listener discretion is advised. Thank you. Alrighty, guys. Today we are honored to welcome a powerhouse creator who channels adversity into art. With over a decade in the entertainment industry, Quyne Mariah Vu, who goes by the stage name Nobody's Girl, is a prolific singer-songwriter who has released an incredible 26 songs and counting. She is also an award-winning actress, producer, and assistant director whose films have screened globally. In 2024, Quyne launched her own production company, VyVerse Media, that is focused on making music and films about neurodiversity and human connection. In this interview, we dive deep into her mental health journey, discussing how she transformed inner pain into powerful art, found strength to cope with her challenges, and ultimately rose to live in true alignment with who she is. Please welcome the supremely talented, insightful, and resilient Quyne Mariah Vu, aka Nobody's Girl. Hi, Quyne. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Hello. It's so nice to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I know this has been a conversation in the works because I think I heard about this at the beginning of this year.
Yes, I
Yeah,
know. It's been
yeah.
a long time coming, but I'm so happy we're finally sitting down and chatting. So Quyne, you are amazing. You're 31 years old, you're a singer-songwriter, and you're just absolutely crushing it in your career. I follow you on Instagram. I see all the amazing projects you're doing. And I actually want to start by talking about how we met. And I think I want you to tell the story of how we met. I think you can tell it better than I can. So I think it's a really funny story. So.
Yeah, I think we were supporting this band,
Mhm,
this local band, and we didn't know each other. We just kind of,
mhm.
came to this venue and a mutual friend introduced us and we're
Yep.
like, oh, hi, cool. Very busy night, lots of voices and noises around. Didn't really talk too much, though I'm pretty sure there was chatter and alcohol, which is why I don't
Yes, yes.
remember much of it. Yeah. And then I don't know if it was like days later or weeks later, but that same mutual friend texted both of us and was like, hey, Felicia's bipolar, you're bipolar. Why don't you guys chat? I think you
Exactly.
guys would click. And I was like, sure, what an icebreaker.
Yeah, literally,
I'm like,
literally.
okay, cool. You know, I know this is a podcast geared towards asking me questions, but like, do you ever like experience people going like, "Oh, I'm bipolar too," and you're just like not sure how to like take it?
Yes. I've only had a few circumstances of that, but I had a coworker, for instance, and I told her about my bipolar disorder, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're bipolar too? Like me too." What type are you? Because there's bipolar type 1,
Yeah,
type 2,
right.
right?
Yeah.
And we'll talk about what that means. But yeah, I think bipolar disorder is more common than we think.
Yeah.
But because it's very stigmatized, not a lot of people feel comfortable with self-disclosure. And I
Hmm.
think that's totally okay. It's all depending on your comfort level. But what I really
Yeah.
appreciate about you is that you are so open about talking about it. And that's why I wanted to invite you to the podcast today was to talk about your mental health challenges. If we even want to use that word challenge,
Mhm.
we'll go deeper into that because it is nuanced, it's a little layered because even though bipolar is a very tough illness that can cause a lot of self destructive behaviors when not managed, there's silver linings to it, I think,
Mhm.
and I think you can also speak to that as well. Um, and we'll discuss this in this interview today. But before we get started, I wanted to just kind of introduce you and learn more about, where you're born, raised. Did you always know you wanted to be a singer-songwriter growing up?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in San Jose. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I've always known what I wanted to do, and it wasn't like a linear path for sure, because there are moments too, like you're being raised in an Asian American household. You're not not everybody is going to be like, oh yay, you want to be an artist, great, love that for you, which I would have loved to have heard at the time.
Hmm. Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I mean, they showed their support in some ways. Like my parents, they took me to singing classes um and music camps and all that stuff, and my dad happens to be a musician too, so
Oh, wow.
it was always ingrained in me. And I think, like, coming from his background, he didn't get the support that he wanted as a musician. He was punished for it and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And so, there came some traumatic worries, but at the same time, he's like, well, I didn't get my shot, so let me just see if I can help my daughter get her shot. And yeah, I mean, when I mean the traumatic processing of it all, it's because my dad was punished for pursuing music. He by facing a lot of that, the way he would raise me is like, hey, well, make sure you have a backup, make sure like, know how you're gonna make money and all that stuff. And it was, um, yeah, it was always like in the back of my mind too, and I would always kind of jump back and forth between art and making doing something stable, until one day, I think it was COVID, where I was like, I can't sit in this office and do graphic design and do um brochures for things I don't really care about.
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know, and that was actually around the time where you asked me to do a logo or something, and I
Yes,
was
for
like,
athlete voices.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, cool, I'll do it. But it was also like kind of tied into what the world I was trying to leave. And I was like, well,
Yeah,
shit, girl. And I'm so glad you were understanding, because I was explaining, like, hey, bipolar is like really hard right now, and I gotta do my own thing.
absolutely.
And so yeah, that was cool. But at the same time, I was
Yeah.
like, I need to leave graphic design behind. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you doing that for me. Athlete Voices was my first podcast, and the logo is brilliant. You're so talented. My gosh, you're a visual artist, not only a musician, but a visual artist. You're just like creativity pouring out of you. That's incredible. So yeah, I'm so glad you found your truth. And not only did you know your truth, but you had the courage to pursue it. I feel like a lot of people, first of all, they may not even be self-aware enough to know what their essence is, what they truly love at the core. And maybe they know what they love, but it might be a career path that is risky, or
Hmm.
something that their family didn't support, or whatever it may be, and they choose not to go down this path. And for me personally, as a dancer, and a fitness instructor and a writer, like, I'm also on the creative path. And I want to also talk about growing up in an Asian American household where, the stereotype, right? It's like, okay, academics, okay, follow the straight and narrow path, and then you're gonna become like a doctor or an engineer, what have you, right? And that's the way. And I grew up in a family of doctors and engineers. So I always felt kind of like I was climbing up a mountain just to do what I wanted.
Hmm.
My parents, they supported my passions, but they didn't really envision me pursuing those passions as an actual career. Did
Yeah.
you face a similar thing? I mean, you mentioned your dad was a musician, which I think is very helpful in some ways, right?
Yeah.
But did you ever feel pressure to go down more of the traditional path as opposed to music?
I think those pressures were more self-imposed
Hmm.
than anything. Like sometimes I'll appear at a family gathering, and then they'll be like, hey, what are you doing in school? Do this. Okay, good, and I might like lie or something.
So
Um,
funny.
yeah, so but I think it was a lot of it was because like perhaps 7 to 10 years ago, there weren't a lot of casting calls or spaces for Asian women to
Mm,
occupy in the entertainment world.
right.
Nowadays there's so much. I'm actually hopping onto a set tomorrow where they really pushed for having an Asian woman on set because we
Wow.
filming a music video for another Asian artist, which is not me, but I also work a lot of behind the scenes stuff. That's actually what makes money,
Mm,
to but yeah, it's a lot of it is me like not believing because I thought I was living in a world where I couldn't thrive being who I am. And so I kind of had to like go through those mental hoops and be like, wait, there is some essence within me that is very unique and powerful, and I need to harness it. Um, and that's the only way I'll actually succeed in it. Um, yeah. So
yeah,
that's me. I think if anybody's going to put you down in this world, you have the biggest potential to be that person more than anyone.
absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. Okay, so now let's segue more into the mental health component of our talk. So, I have bipolar disorder, and I was diagnosed 7 years ago, smack in the middle of college when I was at UCLA. And for the first 3 years, I kind of denied it. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't have bipolar. Like, I'm not crazy. I had a lot of internalized stigma back then.
Yeah.
I didn't even go to therapy. I was loosely put on medication, like a mood stabilizer, just a single mood stabilizer. It was not nearly enough to hold me.
Yeah.
But and I was just so I was in denial. I was in
Hmm.
the denial phase. And then when eventually I couldn't deny it anymore because it was causing so much disruption in my life, and I felt like I was going actually insane, because I wasn't managing it. That's when I decided, okay, you know what, this is an actual issue that I need to address.
Hmm.
So basically, from COVID up till basically now, I've been going to therapy consistently. I got put on the right medication finally. And now I'm in this place where I am very stable and I am willing to talk openly about it because um, I've kind of come full circle in the journey,
Yeah.
of accepting it, embracing it, and seeing it as my greatest superpower. It is my
Yeah.
strength. It's the source of my humanity. It's a way for me to connect with people like yourself who have similar challenges, and who've gone through a similar journey. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So I want to talk about your journey with bipolar. So when were you diagnosed?
Same year as you actually. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Um, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, yeah, I mean, what's it called? I was trying to like say something real quick. Uh,
Hmm.
Sorry, you were like saying a lot about your journey. I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
that's so cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, because I think you mentioned about how like how open I am about it. And that same year, um, I straight up just like shared it with my platform like right away
Wow.
because I I think I had an opposite journey where I was like the way that my mental health manifested in the outside world was you needed to get me to shut up, essentially.
Mm.
I was an oversharer. I needed media training when I started
Mhm.
out in the industry because they're like, wait, we don't want her to say this. We don't want to say. And so for me, it was just like, I think I always had I don't know. I used to call it this little feral monster within me,
Mhm.
and I always felt like I had it. And when came, like when it made more sense with a diagnosis, I was like, oh, this is why this monster exists.
Yeah.
And the word monster, it implies exactly what it is. And so I think like a lot of your relationship with yourself has a lot to do with semantics too, because um sometimes the word monster would make you feel absolutely awful and destructive. And I think over the years, like you said, you there's ways to kind of cope with it by like seeing it as a superpower instead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, so I don't know. I think for me, I was just like, oh, okay, well, let me tell everybody what's wrong with me because I'm dramatic. It
I actually really admire that because was not that brave. I was not that open in the beginning.
was
It was
brave. I think
my,
I don't know. It felt foolish to me, but it's like looking back, I don't regret it. I'm just like, well, I did it, so nothing I can.
yeah, no regrets, absolutely.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I was just so ashamed of it. I think
Mm,
everyone has their quote unquote shame story.
yeah.
Something about themselves that they self-perceive as undesirable,
Yeah.
and that if they put out in the world, if they share it to other people, that would render them unlovable
Hmm.
or undesirable in some way. And bipolar was that for me.
Yeah.
But it's so great that you're so open about it. And for guests who don't know really what bipolar is, I have right here a little handy dandy DSM pamphlet. So the DSM is the diagnostic shit. I'm forgetting the acronym. It's the manual for
Yeah.
the official technical um, definition of mental health diagnoses. So I'm going to read out, according to this manual, what bipolar disorder is from the clinical standpoint. So there's two types of bipolar disorder. There's type 1, which is characterized by a manic episode preceded or followed by either hypomanic or major depressive episodes. And a manic episode is defined as a period of persistent, greatly elevated mood characterized by increased activity, energy, or irritability lasting at least 1 week. It's characterized by the presence of at least three of the following: grandiosity, decreased sleep, garrulousness, which is increased talkativity, rapid succession of thoughts, paying attention and difficulty paying attention and focusing, agitation, restlessness, increased goal directed activity, excessive engagement in behaviors with a high likelihood of negative outcomes like compulsive shopping, gambling, entering into high risk business ventures, for example. Okay, so that's a manic episode. Now, bipolar type 2 is what a lot of people think is the less severe type, and it's characterized by cycling between depression and hypomanic episodes. So, hypomania is more like a low grade manic
Hmm.
episode. So, it's similar to manic episodes, but period lasts at least 4 consecutive days. So, it's not quite as long. Um, so, that's type 2. Okay, and depression is the other side of the pole, right? It used to be called manic depressive illness. So there's mania, there's the highs, and then there's depression, which we all, I think, know what depression is, and that's the lows. And it's cycling between these two mood states. A lot of people think bipolar, oh, you're just having mood swings, but it's much more than that. These are actual mood episodes that can cause a lot of dysregulation and disruption in your functionality. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the clinical definition. Now, Quyne, I want to ask you, how would you describe bipolar disorder to someone who has no idea what it is?
Um, I think it's a spectrum of extremes that can be perceived as abnormal, I guess that's how I've always perceived it. Like I think that the way that I've noticed how my place in society is compared to, the general public is I let's say I will feel manic from 1 to 10, like whichever scale I have, right? And then I will feel depressive from 1 to 10. And I see a lot of people being like 1 to 3 or 1 to 5. Like they just stop right there. Like their lowest point or their highest point is at a 3 or my 5, you know? Um, and but that's a very linear way of describing it. If I were to think about like what it looks like to me, it's definitely like an atom because there's a lot of intersectionality between the complexities of the human mind.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the thing is like, people can appear confident as well. Like there's like even a scale for that. Your confidence and your low self-esteem being on the other end. Um where I do a lot of things that appear confident. I see that because everyone sees me as this bold and confident figure.
Hmm.
But I do get insecure. I do feel shame. I do um like I've had moments where it's like this thing makes me feel unlovable or unhireable. Like I think,
Mm,
you know, yeah, like and it is and like I never have acted out at work, but and I know this isn't directly tied to the question, but I've never acted at work, but always worry about like if someone hires me and they know I'm bipolar, do they think I'm completely unfit for the job? You
right,
know? Yeah. And again, it's never happened, but it's just like you never know who has um a harmful understanding of bipolar, you know.
right,
And I think I fight every day to, show that I am functional to myself and to others and try to give myself grace when I'm not, because there are days where I'm not. Yeah.
right. No, absolutely. I think disclosure of bipolar is really tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because we live in a world that, even though there is more open talk and conversation about mental health, especially in the US, I feel like bipolar remains one of the more stigmatized conditions,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to some more bread and butter
Yeah.
conditions like depression and anxiety. I feel like we kind of use that term, depression and anxiety, to, kind of illustrate like more the, I hesitate to say like one is worse than the other. They all
Mm-hmm.
suck, right? They all suck. And they also exist on a spectrum. I think we're all on a spectrum. Some people just have more extremes than others, right? Some people
Mm-hmm.
have differing levels of severity. And
Mm-hmm.
how, by severity, I mean how much it impacts their day-to-day functioning, whether it be in
Yeah.
work or academics or relationships, things like that. Um, so yeah, I guess going off of what you said about being unhireable because of your diagnosis, that is a very important topic that I've thought about, which is self-disclosure in the workplace.
Yeah.
Let's go there because now I don't know if my bosses are going to watch this podcast. I hope not. I'm scared. I am scared, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
because I have to this day never told a single person from work besides that one coworker
Mm-hmm.
about my diagnosis, because I worry that what if they fire me, or what if they I tell them this thing and that's all they see, you
Mm-hmm.
know? If I call in sick to work, they might be thinking, "Oh, is she actually sick, or is she depressed? Is she, that's all they see. That's what I worry about." And I think
Right.
that is the reality for a lot of people, is people who are misinformed or uneducated or are caught in their own stigma, they have these preconceptions about what bipolar is. They may think, oh, bipolar just means crazy, or bipolar means they're not functional, or they're unreliable, or they're like, I feel like mainstream media, like Hollywood, may portray bipolar in a way that's not really totally accurate. It's just very dramatized, you
Mm-hmm.
know? I feel like Kanye West is kind of the poster child of bipolar in Hollywood. And Kanye, from what I know, he is, I don't think he's managing it very well. I think in an interview I read, it's like he doesn't want to take medication because he's worried it'll reduce his creativity, for instance. But my personal opinion is that bipolar is a brain illness, and the brain is an organ, and if your brain is not working as it should, medication can help rectify that, to an extent. Of course, meds alone does not fix bipolar. You can still have episodes even if you're on the right medication. It's that in conjunction with the lifestyle stuff, like getting enough sleep, practicing self-care, practicing regulation, emotional regulation, doing the things that make you feel good and stable. Um, so long-winded tangent, but talking about bipolar and disclosure in the workplace. Yeah, what do you think about that? Like, you mentioned you talk very openly about it, but I'm sure you've also had thoughts of, you mentioned, right? I'm worried I'm going to be unhireable, or people are not going to see me as reliable in the workplace. How did you navigate that?
Yeah, I think especially with the platforms that we feel comfortable with, the communities that we feel comfortable with, it's still important to say what we can. Because one person's like the most important thing that I've continued to push forward in every mental health conversation is that we're we may have the same diagnosis or we may not, but there um we always have to look at everything from a case by case basis, you know. Um and I actually have a pet peeve with people who have a generalizing mind or they just want to put someone in a box because of a certain label, whether it's Asian, female, or bipolar. And whenever I run into something like that, I'm just like, well, have you considered this? This is a new, I don't know. I'm kind of a debater, so I do kind of challenge viewpoints.
Hmm.
Um, I still think it is important as a public artist to talk about it. And that means it will bleed into my work at some point because I work in entertainment. However, I guess like in certain spaces where I'm hired as an assistant director or a director, a very high level leadership position, those are I guess, the moments where I have worried a little bit more just because I'm not really performing, I'm leading teams and um, so I do like to read the room before I even talk about stuff like that. And I think you mentioned emotional regulation is, you know, a lot of like largely part of it. And I do that a lot of that work at home, so it kind of bleeds into like whenever I have my work self on, you know. So that's part of it. And then I guess like the regulation that I do to read the room and see what I can or cannot share. Um yeah, I don't know. It's the whole it depends type of answer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There are some people where I'm like, I don't need to talk to them about mental health right now. Um and I guess the more
Hmm.
narrower minded folks, like
Hmm.
the way that I navigate them is that I show up to work, I do what I do best, and I lead a set, and I'll show them what a bipolar woman can do. I don't need to dive deep into it. I just need to show them that this is what I can do. You hired me for a reason, and I'm gonna lead the set and make sure that everything's done and dusted. Um, yeah, so that's kind of like my silent way of dealing with people like that because there are
Yeah.
people like that in the workplace. And for the most part, I do run into very compassionate people because
Mm.
we are in the entertainment industry where there's a lot of creatives and creative people in general have a larger understanding of nuances in society. So I think that's how
Totally.
we collectively bring awareness. Yeah.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. And let's talk about neurodivergence in the creative community because, I always had this archetype in my head of like the tortured artist archetype. So, you think about the Van Goghs of the world or the Edgar Allan Poes, these guys who were so deeply creative, brilliant geniuses, but they also had a lot of demons they had to face. you know. I think about Lana Del Rey, and she's the epitome to me of like a sad girl artist. Her
Mhm.
songs, they're so moving, and but they can be heavy sometimes. And for me personally, when I do my writing, you know, a lot of my best work stems from deep emotional pain and trauma.
Yeah.
I
Right.
write when I feel such strong pain that I have no other choice but to turn to art as a catharsis, as a way of healing. That is not to say
Mhm.
that I cannot write when I'm happy and regulated, but it's sometimes, I think, Ernest Hemingway was the one who said that writing is easy, all you do is bleed.
Yeah.
And there are days when I just have to bleed. I bleed on the page. And
Mhm.
so I think we have this stereotype of artists who have demons, who have struggles and challenges that are deeply personal that they release through their art. What do you think
Yeah.
about the tortured artist archetype?
Uh, yeah, I think it's very common. I personally feel that it gets over romanticized.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, and I do believe in bleeding out your pain into art. I do believe in that. However, I, especially as I've gotten older, there's a whole different shift that when a woman turns 30 or into her 30s, like there's different priorities and that take place, I think, that
Hmm.
happens to a lot of us. And not everybody, but like I've noticed like a lot of my friends who have already turned 30 or they're going through what I went through, it's just like now what matters,
Hmm.
are we chasing the flame, or are we just trying, or now are we trying to build a foundation for the rest of our lives?
Right.
And I think that for me, I've definitely chased the flame of pain, when it came to creativity, especially in my 20s. That decade was largely full of that. um and I think that I, as someone who likes to play with the extremes, because the extremes is what I feel, I made it a point to myself to bleed until I ran dry. And I pushed myself there on projects, in relationships, in my introspective moments in my room. Um, and I've run dry quite a bit in the past couple of years. And then once I did, I was like, well, what's next?
Hmm.
Now I'm at a point where I just want to align. I want to, um, like, what does alignment even look like?
Right.
And yeah, so it's different for everybody. So like I know probably a lot of what I'm saying is going to sound very general, but like after catharsis, I now seek, like, healing on a deeply emotional and spiritual level. And so I still write about pain, but like sometimes it's very um also cathartic to, I don't know, dive into some existential feelings of enlightenment.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what I express as well. And I don't know, I'm trying to like get to a certain point, and I find it very difficult just because like it's such a nuanced experience to have bled dry and think, wait, what's next? Like I almost felt like I had to go through some kind of I went through multiple ego deaths essentially to get
Mm.
here. And I think once you kind of pass that, and maybe some people will continue to be in that tortured artist like mindset. I think for me, I'm kind of transitioning out, uh, like just because I'm like, there's nothing else left for me to be tortured about. I think for me, now I just want to elevate. Now that I really, really dove deep into my pain, and I remember when I was back in those spaces, people wouldn't understand. People were like, "Oh yeah, typical tortured artist type." But there were times where I'm like, I just want to be happy. But
Yeah.
I would still dive into those self torture, spaces, because it was still calling me to, again, bleed myself until I'm dry. They like I don't know, I'm very much a like, I just gotta let it all out or else I can't, like,
Yeah.
face the world again. Um yeah, so now I'm thinking about quality of life, and a lot of those tortured feelings also stem from like very complex feelings and thoughts and nuances. And so sometimes it's as simple as enjoying the simple things. Like I think you saw my story the other day. I did my nails and I'm like, oh, I'm good. I can go to sleep now because I
I love your
slay.
nails.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh my gosh. They're gorgeous.
Yeah. But yeah, I've just done like, I think for me, like these days it's a lot of consistent efforts, even if it's like small things like doing my nails.
Yeah.
And back in the day when I was so tortured, I was just like, really? A manicure is that's not gonna do anything. I'm still like, crying about whatever, so and so or whatever. And nowadays it's just like, okay, I'm gonna do my nails. Life isn't perfect, but it's okay. And then what else are we gonna do? We're gonna smell the roses. Okay, awesome. Oh, but that thought's still bothering us. Let's write it out. It's
Hmm.
it's a lot of ping pong. And I know this is very long-winded. It's just because I don't think I'm really grasping everything that it's, I guess, like to generalize it completely. Um, what I think about the tortured artist archetype is that sometimes it is a very necessary stage of life. and at the same time look at yourself and think, are you living a quality life? You
Yeah.
know? Yeah. And maybe you can revisit that headspace again. But I don't know. Life is so short and it
Yeah.
gets shorter when you turn 30 and then when you turn 40. So it's like, okay, now how do I set myself up for success? Yeah.
Exactly. Oh wow. That so beautifully said. I think
It's a lot, I know.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot to unpack, but I want to pinpoint what you said about quality of life, right? Because ultimately, I feel like we all want to be happy, right? We want to be happy. We want to be whatever your goal may be. For me personally, is like I want to live my truth. I want to do what I love. If I can make money doing what I love, and that'll be my career, then I will be happy. And I would say I am very happy right now because I'm pursuing my dreams as a
Yeah.
dancer, a writer, a entrepreneur,
Mhm.
it's not a path I thought I would ever go down, when I was growing up. But life has a funny way of unfolding in unexpected ways. I also
Yeah.
think about, yeah, how can I integrate flow into my life, creative flow? Because I think that's where I'm happiest when I'm so
Mm.
deeply immersed in a task, whether it's writing a poem or creating a dance choreography, so immersed in building and creating something. That's my happy place. So
Mhm.
what is your happy place?
Very similar. Yeah, um I think that this is an assumption, but I think being bipolar artist, it's very if it almost feels restricting to express ourselves through only just one medium,
Yeah.
you know? I have also gotten into dance in the
Yeah.
past year.
Amazing.
Yeah, and so you dance, you write poems and stuff. I write songs, I do all sorts of stuff. I act as well and I
Hmm.
direct and yeah, and I also consider glam time part of the whole thing, because I'm just like, oh, what vibe are we feeling today?
Exactly.
Um yeah. So that's my flow. It's like what was your question? How do you embrace the
Just like
flow or
how do you integrate, or what is your happy place? What
oh my
what do
happy
you
place.
do that makes you feel happiest?
Yeah, it's just following the flow. I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah. Sometimes the flow is very sad. Sometimes the flow is very happy.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm very conscientious of being present with others too. I think
Hmm.
human connection is what makes the world go round.
Yeah.
Um, and I tend to dedicate a lot of my works to that. I think too, like that's why my art after this album is going to be much happier.
Yes.
I was like the one that's coming out in January, all of that, all the bleeding needed to be bled.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been holding on to for so long. And I'm like, you know what? People just need to hear it already because I'm ready to move on to the next stage of life, which is being present, being following the flow and
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. And I think a lot of people can resonate with your next album, the mental health album. What's the name of the album?
It's called Not for Everybody.
Not for everybody. Hmm.
Yeah.
What's the inspiration behind the name?
Um, I think I just decided to be as blunt as possible with certain feelings that I've had. Because in real life, I'm not someone that seeks conflict. And I know that I have like an aggressive energy, and so people will kind of like already feel intimidated in my presence. And so having been made aware of all that in the past decade, I've just made a lot of steps to be like a harmonious human being. And sometimes that means not being honest with everybody. And I don't like lying either.
Me
I'm very
neither.
much about living the authentic life.
Yeah.
But for me, I see my self-expression with others as how much of myself am I putting out there? And so again, I don't see it as me lying to people. I just see, oh, I'm just going to be 1/10 of myself with this person because I don't think I can really open up to them like that. So I think because um, I live in a world where I don't feel understood in a lot of spaces, I wrote this album because I was just like, let me just put it all here. Um, and art can be interpreted however they want it to be, you know. There was like a very nuanced experience I had with someone who had a partner. And I'm not saying I home wrecked. I did not. However, it was a nuanced experience where I gained feelings and I was forced to be quiet about it because I knew that as someone who again doesn't want any sort of conflict whatsoever, it's something I had to keep to myself. And so it's that's just one examples, like having those kinds of experiences made me like it all up. And this album had to happen because I had to let it out somehow.
Yeah.
And if it didn't, then I don't think I could have moved on to like this current stage of my life.
Yeah.
And so I do sing about those kinds of experiences. Um, and I say not for everybody because at first glance, if you mention something like that, people are going to have assumptions, you know?
Yeah.
You labeled the mistress, even though you were just seen with them talking a normal thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And like for me, I don't condone doing anything that impedes on someone else's happiness. So, but at the same time, bottling all this up and not feeling like good about it was difficult. So
Yeah.
yeah, and it's me facing all of those demons too, because I even shame myself for it. And my friends are like, dude, you're not doing anything wrong. I know. And I was like, I know, but it
Hmm.
feels so gross because it's like, ugh, why can't I just like someone single?
Yeah, right.
You know? Yeah,
Relationships, dating, whole
yeah.
other thing we could talk about. Yeah,
Oh
no, that's
yeah. There's a song I
yeah,
think I would love to share with you because when it
please.
comes out especially, it's called My Psychology. And mainly because like, sometimes you want to like you feel almost undateable for the struggles you carry.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like,
Totally.
yeah, I think you know what I'm saying. But I wrote it because I was just like, let me fight that feeling somehow, you know. And I just laid out what I need in a relationship, and sometimes it came down as simple as I just want to be held, and that's enough. And then
Yeah.
I'll feel like my worries are over. And sometimes it's as simple as like, don't make me feel alone. Whatever you do, don't make me feel alone. I took whatever I needed, that grocery list of what I want in a relationship, and I turned it into a song. And that's why it's called My Psychology,
It's
because it's
beautiful.
like, it's literally a handbook to my next person. Like, this is how to love me.
Yeah.
I'm not easy, but here's a manual.
Wow.
Because I'm not that hard to love, and I had to tell myself that. Yeah.
You are very lovable and you should know that for sure. And yeah, what a great way. Like just be like, first date, hey, check out my song. This is a little manual on
On how
dating
to
you
love me.
101.
Yeah, essentially that's what it is.
I
I'm like
love
putting on
that.
a new light because clearly my light went out.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Yeah, and that whole core belief of I am unlovable, I am undesirable, um I'm just other because of my diagnosis that I had no control over, right? No one asked to be born bipolar, right? It's just our psychology, our brain biology. It's
Yeah.
a thing that we had no control over. It felt very grossly unfair in the beginning when I had this diagnosis. I was like, why me? Why me? You know,
Hmm.
I'm the only one in my immediate family, to my knowledge, that has any kind of neurodivergence whatsoever. My family, they are the most neurotypical people I know, very straight and narrow path, very level-headed, regulated, without effort. And I'm just the
Yeah.
squiggly line. I'm the little spiral who's always having spirals. And um, I just struggled fundamentally with this belief that I am so different, that makes me unlovable. And let's talk about how to date with a diagnosis like this. Is challenging. And I struggle with self-disclosure in the dating context, and I come from Asian American families. I feel like mental health is more stigmatized by way of the culture, and it's just not very talked about, at least in my family. And my mom was like, she told me, "Oh yeah, try not to tell them about your bipolar for as long as possible.
Yeah.
Like a year. Date them for a year and then tell them because then they'll get to know the real you. They'll see how stable and regulated you are, how normal you are. And I don't like that. I'm like, I don't know if it's a first date topic, but I want to get it out as soon as possible, and then it'll weed out the
Mhm.
people who
Mm,
are closed-minded and just you don't want to
yeah.
be with those people anyway, right? So talk to me about your take on self-disclosure and dating with the bipolar diagnosis.
I'm pretty much a right off the bat
Hmm.
person when it comes to that because I think what you said earlier is like if they're not emotionally like if they're not, you know, equipped or if they don't understand it or if they don't even want to get near it, then I don't want to be near them, you
Yeah.
know? Um yeah, like I'm a Virgo, so I'm like very like, red flags are red flags.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. I think emotional intelligence is a must no matter what. And
Yeah.
if it's not emotional intelligence, emotional curiosity, you
Oh,
know,
I love that.
I I think like maybe not everybody has been exposed in this life to other bipolar people or exposed to the right education about it, but like the kindness and the compassion and the understanding and the curiosity to um experience and express this patience toward me, that is appreciated,
Yeah.
so I think that that's kind of what I would look for in the dating world. Now, dating world and neurodiversity, that's something that I've kind of put to the side for now. And
Hmm.
and if I like look into it at this time, I'm just like, to be honest, I don't know how to date.
Me neither.
Yeah, I'm just like, what? To me, another person, cool. Copy. I don't know. I'm just gonna focus on music and my friends, and they will
Yeah.
come. Whoever that person is, they're gonna come. I believe in the universe and that they're gonna bless me with
Yes.
amazing love. And I'm not like in a place to be like, I just want my person. I don't know. I have a weird relationship with dating because it's quite frankly scary.
It is very scary, and I'm the master at failed flings. And I have learned a lot of lessons, right? So I think intellectually I know what I want, but going about it, execution, and it is kind of a crapshoot, right? And yeah, with the neurodivergence, it just complicates it even more, um, or it makes it a little more scary, I feel like. And um, yeah, so I'm in a similar boat where I'm just focused on my art,
Mhm.
advancing myself as an artist. I think that's one of the most fulfilling things you can do is to
Yeah,
reach your potential
yeah.
as an artist and creative. Work on nurturing that talent because it's in you. That's God's gift to you. And I think the greatest way you can honor God or your higher power is to use your gifts and
Mm-hmm.
milk the shit out of them and use your gifts to do good in the world. That's how
Yeah,
I see it, you know?
yeah.
And that's what I'm focused on right now, in addition to my businesses as well. So yeah, dating, it'll happen. And I think I also agree it'll happen on the universe's time. It's a
Mhm.
timing thing, and it'll happen. Let's talk about spirituality. You
Yeah.
mentioned some buzzwords, like enlightenment, ego deaths. We talk about the universe. What is your relationship with spirituality, and how has it helped you in your healing?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think that for people who have access to the extremes on an emotional level, I think there's a beautiful gateway to spirituality. I think my relationship with it is so in tune compared to before my diagnosis. And I think like understanding yourself. I think the most in tune people are the people who really know themselves. Um, and I think that once you are aware of what you come with in this life, um, it's a sharp mirror image right in front of your face, right? And I think that's really what connects you to the divine, because the divine is within us truly at the end of the day.
Yeah.
um that's how I see it. It's a lonely path, I think, when you embark on it at the beginning,
Hmm.
but um it's also, once you've like aligned with yourself, you're also more aligned with the right people in your life too, because
Yeah.
let's say you weren't in the right communities or groups prior, and then you go through this realignment of like where you're meant to be. That's when those friendships become deeper, or the newer people in your life that come into your life after enlightenment, like I've had like certain interactions where I'm like, oh, I've known you for like a few months, but like you're like my best friend, you
Yeah.
know. And that came
Hmm.
after enlightenment, and then I like look at my some longer term friendships, and I'm like, oh shoot, I don't know, I just, there's like a distance,
Yeah.
once, yeah. And that's, it's a lot of like rise and fall, death and birth all at once. Yeah, it's a very, what do you call it? It's one of those existential questions that will I could talk about for like hours.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you define enlightenment?
um, mm, I think that's, can you define
Can
enlightenment?
you, right?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
see it as some kind of transcendence to a different level of
yeah,
consciousness and
yeah,
existence.
right. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
how I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, transcendence is, I think, part of it, like the awareness of and consciousness of it all. And I also see it as like coming into union
Union.
with certain aspects of yourself too, because I think that people who reject and parts of themselves are creating a barrier between themselves and enlightenment too.
Yeah.
And I think that I lived with more shame like in previous years of my life, but I have almost none of it now,
Yeah.
because I was just like, oh, I did this shitty thing once. Cool. I did it because I was like immature, and that's okay. You got to
Hmm.
talk to those past memories, your past self, like, hey, you were a child, it's okay. And even if you weren't a child, like, you are carrying this child wound, and a
Yeah.
lot of it is really mothering yourself too.
Yeah.
It's a lot to think about, because I've gone through a lot of lengths to achieve spiritual enlightenment, whether it's talking to myself like I'm my own mother,
Hmm.
um, what's it called? Using certain substances. I don't know what's okay on this podcast to talk about, but
Anything.
okay, I am a shroom head.
I love shrooms. Oh my gosh, I freaking love shrooms.
Yeah,
I will openly
nature's
admit to that.
medicine.
They call it magic mushrooms for a reason. It's magic. It just unlocks a different layer of consciousness that is not
Yeah,
accessible in your normal state,
yeah,
Like visually is one, but
mm,
also that deep internal connection to your spirit. Like
yeah.
a lot of people report being on shrooms and having spiritual awakenings, just
Mm.
being on this substance,
Oh yeah,
taking it with intention, not
yes,
just like for fun party. You could do that.
yeah.
My first experience on shrooms was at a concert,
Oh
and it
yeah.
was the craziest, most trippy, most amazing experience. I wish I could bottle up that memory and like play it back on loop. Um, just complete lack of inhibition, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, let's and actually, there is a new branch of therapy called psychedelic therapy,
Ooh, yeah.
where people actually microdose shrooms in a
Mhm.
controlled setting, usually with someone, a clinician overseeing them, and they can heal from trauma,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So, yeah, no, we can talk about shrooms. Like, what's your experience?
Um, Transcendental for sure.
Hmm.
I take it with a lot of intention. That's what's healed me a lot, I think, and got me to where I am today. You
Yeah.
know, um, I very much believe in energy work, and I believe that everybody, once they've done the work, have access to so much power that's already within them, you know? And a lot of that power with the, what do you call it? Paired with the right intentions, I think it kind of leads you to where you're meant to be. Like that's kind of like how I achieved enlightenment. It's just like, well, why does my life suck? Why do I feel like my life sucks? Why am I not where I want to be? I'll come into those sessions like with those thoughts and sometimes like I was talking to one of my best friends about this because he went through his first trip and he was like, I want to just see the ether and the universe and what it has for me because I am lost. I have no direction right now. And I just told him like, let's, and this is just my method. Like, not everybody has to do this, but I was just like, well, sometimes when I am that lost, I literally just like lie down like this and say, like about to die right now. Like yeah, put myself in that mindset of like, okay, I don't know, it's such a weird approach to me because I've never heard anyone do it, but like I remember one time when I took it, I was just like, let me just like surrender completely and just be like, take me, take my body, take my soul. Let me and then I immediately when I started to trip, I felt like my body was sinking into the earth.
Hmm.
And it was just my bed, but like I was taken to this place where I felt like I was sinking into the earth, decomposing, breaking apart completely, and then facing the divine, you know, messengers that were meant to come and see me during this time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how like I patched myself back together. Sometimes you have to break apart in order to come back fuller, stronger, um and that's why they call it the ego death too. It's like for me,
Mm.
like I have experienced such low lows to the point where I don't want to be around anymore, but sometimes that feeling can be a gateway to like a really powerful rebirth, and those
Yeah.
are some of the more stronger trips I've had. um and and I know that suicide is a very like triggering topic for some people. For me, I personally don't think that I'll ever go through with it. But
Mhm.
because I am a bipolar person, sometimes the low lows feel like that, you
Yeah.
know? And so the way that I've dealt with it, shroom or no shroom, is to just kind of like, let me just like sink into the bed for a second and break apart, and then when I get up, I'm going to be reborn, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, it's tough and it's not for every time you feel that way, but it's like a lot of those moments have really helped with my healing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, such a lot to unpack.
Lot to unpack. Yeah, it's spirituality is definitely I think a resilience factor. So I'm not trying to push religion onto anyone, but for me I say yoga is my religion because
Yeah.
yoga is it doesn't necessarily have to be religious, but it is deeply spiritual. You know,
Right.
you're doing all these postures on the mat for the purpose of preparing your mind for meditation. And when you're in
Yeah.
these meditative states, you really get in touch with your intuition. And for me,
Yeah.
the intuition is the voice of my essence, the voice
Yeah.
of my truth. That's like God talking to me, you
Yeah.
know? And I think the more I can exist on the plane of intuition, the better off I am because the intuition knows best, right? You know
Yeah.
that phrase, you have the answers within you. You just have to tap
Yeah.
into it,
Yeah. And
you know?
sometimes the divine messengers is just your higher self,
Exactly.
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think religion, I know it's like, I'm also of the opinion, like, I don't want to push any of these beliefs onto anybody. I,
Hmm.
I do feel that whatever we find works for us.
Whatever
Like,
works for us. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's an important thing to carry. And if you see somebody worshiping something else that you don't worship, it's just like, well, but, are they on a path to, being a good person? Cool. I fully support that. I thought I'd share this with you too. Like, how I see religion and how I think it can be healing and how I think it can be destructive is, have you heard of the parable of the elephant? It's an old Indian parable.
I don't think so.
Okay, so it was translated into English by John Godfrey Sachs, but basically there's one elephant and there's like five blind men. And everybody is trying to describe the elephant to each other. One of them is feeling the ear and it's like the elephant is like a fan. Noted. The other one is just like feeling the tail. No, it's like a rope. Are you kidding me? And then the other one's feeling the leg and he's like, no, it feels like a tree trunk. You guys are all stupid. So, and so on and so forth. They're all feeling different parts of the elephant. And I see whatever higher power there's out there, if there is one, I think that it is the elephant. And I do feel like a lot of distress or oppression or whatever else happens in this world is because we are all blind and we may not have the human capacity to see the entire elephant. Um, and I think that for me, that story has kind of like taught me how to come into harmony with other people, even when they don't see what I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a beautiful parable. Um, yeah, it's like we all have our perception is so individualized. Our
Yeah.
perception of the world, our perception of another human, and it's like in psychology, I was a psych major, we talk about top-down processing,
Mhm.
where like two people may see an object, right? Or a stimulus or something in the world, but they may interpret it in vastly different ways because of their existing schemas and worldviews or what they were taught to believe,
Yeah.
and that clouds their perception or
Mhm.
colors their perception. It
Yeah.
just changes it, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so I think the takeaway there is it's important to be open-minded to
Yeah.
different viewpoints and just if you can lead with curiosity in your life, like you may have your beliefs, but being open-minded to hearing differing beliefs and opinions and ultimately empathy, right?
Yeah.
Someone else may be going through a challenge that maybe you cannot directly relate to, but
Mhm.
still having the capacity to accept them and have that goodwill to want to help them, through it
Mhm.
and being able to relate to people. I
Yeah.
think ultimately we all just want to be accepted, you
Yeah.
know? So talking about that kind of community, like what kind of community support have you leaned into to find your healing?
Um, I think I mentioned before that this journey was very lonely.
Yeah.
Um, and I wrote a song on the next album. It's actually called Loner. And I think that was largely impactful in my life. Like the fact that I chose to do a lot of things alone ever since I
Mm-hmm.
was a kid. A lot of that came from like rejection too when I was young. A lot of friend groups thought I was like weird. Um and and I think in more recent years I'm trying to be better about connecting to other people. Um and Loner comes right before this song called Lonely Angels and in its after expressing how alone I feel, I wrote this other song to follow up because I was just like, but everyone feels this kind of loneliness. Maybe it's
Yeah.
different, but like if we just it's actually kind of like healing and unifying to like look around us and see what other people are suffering from too, even if they're hiding it.
Yeah.
Like there's people that might bluff in front of you, but you can just sort of see that it's a shell. They're
Yeah.
hiding and you may not know what it is, but just seeing and it's a very humanizing process for me to kind of break down people like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and they don't have to open up to me. It's just like I don't know. I think that I didn't directly answer your question mainly just because I have this like weird way of like socializing in my life and going through society. I've always been the black sheep and I've always been like a loner. Um, but after all of this transcendental stuff and being an artist, I've come to find the right people in my life over time,
Yeah.
like people that, will hold my hand in the dark, um, and the ones that I'll do the same for. So friends have helped for sure. I think like when I've gone through those really powerful rebirths on a shroom trip, sometimes I'll call a friend and be like, can you remind me what life I'm returning to right now? Because you might be a little like disgruntled and you're like, whoa, I just went through this whole spiritual experience and where my body felt like it was breaking down. And then I'm like, I'll say to my best friend Malcolm, and I'll be like, "What are you to me? Can you like describe that for a second?" you know,
Yeah.
and and it's a beautiful thing to appreciate a lot of the simple things too, like
Yeah.
and what we do for each other. Like before, I used to be such a deep person. I mean, I'm a deep person now, but it's like I would feel like I couldn't connect to people if they couldn't be as deep.
Right.
And that's a very real experience. I get it. Like I feel like my close friends, if they're not deep people, I just can't be their best friend.
Yeah.
But also, I've learned that if people can only meet you a certain way, then meet them there, and that's okay. And that there's still like some sort of shared experience there. Because I remember not being able to connect to certain people, and then I just started talking about perfume, and then they talked about perfume right back, and I was like, okay, cool. Now I can walk away feeling like I had a nice positive experience.
There you go.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I know a lot of my answers are so
I'm
nuanced.
I'm loving where this is going, honestly. You are a very deep person and I connect with what you said about I'm also a deep person. That's why I started this podcast so I could have deep conversations like this
Mhm.
one. But sometimes I feel like people, yeah, they not everyone's comfortable with going there, and meet them where they're at, I had a friend tell me, like, you're a deep person, but listen, Belisha, like, not everyone deserves the deep conversation. Not
Yeah,
everyone, they have to earn your trust for that.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and I am a very trusting, open person. Sometimes maybe a little too much for my own good, but yeah, yeah. I know we're running low on time. This conversation flew by. This was brilliant. And I want to end with this final question, which I asked all my guests, and I'm gonna read it. So, for the person listening right now who is still in the middle of their storm, what is one immediate practical step they can take to drop their anchor?
One practical step.
Yeah. Or maybe, if not just one, maybe like top three that come to mind.
Yeah. I think my answer is pick up a habit that you're willing to track consistently. I
Mhm.
think it's hard to go through a tough storm and feel discouraged when it's not sunshine and rainbows tomorrow or a week from now or a month from now.
Mhm.
But if you took one thing, like for example, whether it was working out or grooming yourself every day, um, whatever it is, like there's people who struggle so bad to the point where they don't brush their teeth every day
Yeah.
or brush their hair every day. What if you picked one thing and just tracked yourself every single day and just said, well, oh, now I did this every day and I did it.
Yeah.
You know, there's yeah, there's many things you can pick, but I think that um I found a lot more healing when my steps were consistent versus like wishing for sunshine and rainbows to come right away, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. So
I
that's
love that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because they say, what's the quote? It was like behavior or action precedes motivation.
Mhm.
So you're not always going to feel motivated and vibrant and passionate every day, but what you lean on in the days you don't feel that way is your habits.
Yeah.
For me, that habit is cold showers.
Oh.
So, especially when I'm depressed, there's something that about cold showers that changes your physiology. It kind
Mhm.
of gives you this little boost of dopamine.
Mm,
that kind of mimics that post-workout high we all
yeah.
experience. And there's science behind it that I cannot cite right now, but cold showers. It's like, okay, I'm freaking depressed, but I'm gonna get my ass out of bed. I'm gonna jump in the cold shower, and I can leave the end of this day. I can go back to bed and be like, okay, this day was absolute shit, but
Mhm.
at least I took the cold shower. That is
Yeah.
one little accomplishment, because it's painful. You have to push through it, but you did it.
Yeah.
So do that. Take a cold shower, and if you want to jump back in bed after, that's fine too. Give
Yeah.
yourself compassion and grace as well. I
Yeah.
think there's another message, right?
Mhm.
It's like on the days where you just don't feel good. You feel icky, you feel down, is like have grace and compassion for yourself. Don't beat yourself up being like, why am I not happy? Why am
Yeah.
I not
Yeah.
XYZ? But then on the other side of that is like not wallowing in that low state, because how do
Mhm.
you get out of that low state? That's the goal, right? Is to
Yeah.
honor those feelings, but also take concrete steps in your daily life, in your
Yeah.
habits to get out of that. So that's why I think it's important for everyone to have like a toolbox of emotional
Yeah.
regulation skills that they lean on. And I guess this is the final question is like, what are some things in your toolbox you lean on when you're feeling down?
Um, I don't know. I mean,
Manicures.
manicure, huh?
Manicures.
Oh,
Your
manicure.
nails. Your
This is
nails.
kind of a new thing for
Oh,
me. Yeah,
yeah?
I guess like it does fall into the box of like glamming up in general.
Yeah.
If it's just lipstick or eyeshadow. Like I think it's yeah, I will say like glamming myself is a toolbox
Mhm.
because it's ritualistic for me. It's not just I'm gonna look pretty and it's gonna be for the gram. It's for me, it's more like I mean, I love this little lip thing I got.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Sushi Glow Cosmetics, not sponsored. Anyway. um I don't know, like little things like this where I'm just like, let me sit on the table. What's my intention? All right, let me get those lips all rosy so that I can speak words of love to myself. Like, I don't always like get super detailed with it, but sometimes it's as simple as this perfume, like I'll have, and I'll be like, okay, now I smell like I just came out of a garden like a goddess. And
Love
that's like
it.
enough. Yeah, I used to think like all that stuff was superficial, but now it's like, I don't know, if it's intentional, it'll feel right.
Yeah. Look good to feel good, right?
Yeah,
So they
exactly.
say,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's always for me because I'm not for everybody.
I love it. Okay, when are we gonna have your album out? When is it dropping?
January 2026.
Okay,
One of the days.
January 20th, you said?
It's I haven't decided which
Oh,
date in January yet,
okay.
but
Yeah.
it's gonna be in January.
January 2026. All right. Stay tuned, friends, for that. I will definitely be listening to every song in the album.
Yeah, I hope you
I'm
love it.
excited.
Yeah, no, it's been a super relatable conversation. I mean, um, yeah, I'm such an ADHD person, so whenever you would go on a
Oh my
spiel,
God, me
oh,
too.
yeah, I could literally respond to that if we were having coffee right now. But then you asked a question, I'm like, oh wait, I have to talk about myself.
It's always a challenge as someone who I suspect I also am on the ADHD spectrum. I'll get carried away with one topic, then my brain bounces to another one and go
Yeah,
off, on tangents. I
yeah,
do that. And it's hard as a podcast host to like, at this, on the one hand, keep the interview on
yeah.
track a little bit, have some sense of direction, but at the same time, you were speaking about so many amazing, deep, insightful topics that we could literally continue this conversation another
Hmm.
time, like over
Yeah,
coffee or something,
yeah.
But to the listeners listening, I really hope that you found this inspiring and educational. And Quyne, it was such a pleasure having you. And it was also great to catch up. And I'm really surprised that I didn't realize how relatable we are to each other. Like, there's so many similarities, not just our diagnosis, but like our journey of healing from it and the spirituality and identifying as an artist and turning to art as a means of catharsis and healing and the dating challenges
Hmm.
and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Quinn. And
For
let's
having me.
catch
This
up.
is a great conversation. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Bye. Take care. Bye. As we wrap up today's journey, a massive thank you for spending this time with us on the Well Anchored Life. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate, comment, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps other people find the show. We have new episodes dropping every Tuesday, so follow us on Instagram to stay up to date with new episodes and behind the scenes content.